He thought his net worth gave him permission to treat people like trash. Harrison Cole, a tech mogul worth billions, walked into the most exclusive restaurant in Manhattan with one goal: to impress his foreign investors. But when he decided to use a struggling waitress as the punchline of his joke, speaking in Mandarin to mock her right to her face, he made a fatal calculation. He assumed she was just a waitress. He assumed she couldn't understand. He was wrong. What she whispered back didn't just silence the table, it cost him everything. This is the story of Audrey Miller, and the reply that shocked the world. The rain in Manhattan didn't wash things clean. It just made the grime slicker. Audrey Miller pushed through the heavy revolving doors of the Onyx room, shaking her umbrella out before collapsing it. She caught her reflection in the darkened glass, tired gray eyes, hair frizzed from the humidity, and the cheap polyester uniform that smelled faintly of industrial detergent. At 26, Audrey felt like she was living someone else's life. 5 years ago, she had been on a fast track to a diplomatic career, a scholarship student with a brain that soaked up languages like a sponge. Now, she was table 4's server, a ghost in a black waistcoat, invisible until someone needed a refill on sparkling water. "You're late, Miller," a voice snapped. Audrey flinched. Liam, the floor manager, stood by the host stand, tapping a tablet with manicured fingernails. Liam was the kind of man who kissed the rings of the rich and kicked the shins of the poor. "I'm sorry, Liam." The L train was stalled for 20 minutes, Audrey said, rushing toward the locker room. "Save it. You're on the VIP section tonight. And don't screw it up. We have a whale coming in." Audrey paused, her hand on the locker room door. "A whale?" "Harrison Cole," Liam said, the name dripping with reverence. "Tech CEO. Just acquired a massive logistics firm in Shanghai. He's bringing 3 guests. High priority. If his water glass drops below half full, you're fired. Understand?" Audrey nodded, her stomach tightening. She knew the name. Everyone knew Harrison Cole. He was the face of Cole Tech, a man who appeared on the cover of Forbes, wearing hoodies, but treated his staff like serfs. He was known for his aggressive takeovers, and his even more aggressive public outbursts. By 7:30 p.m., the restaurant was humming. The Onyx room was designed to intimidate. Everything was black marble, gold leaf, and velvet. The acoustics were engineered so that you could hear the clinking of crystal but never the conversation at the next table. It was a place where a salad cost more than Audrey's weekly grocery budget. Audrey moved through the dining room with practiced efficiency. She had learned to turn off her brain, to become a machine of service. Bread basket. Butter. Pour from the right. Clear from the left. Then, the atmosphere changed. The air in the room seemed to get sucked toward the entrance. Harrison Cole had arrived. He didn't walk. He strutted. He was younger than he looked in photos, maybe early 30s, with a jawline that could cut glass and eyes that looked like they were constantly scanning for weaknesses. He was flanked by 3 men. 2 were older, distinguished Chinese gentlemen in impeccable suits, Mr. Zhang and Mr. Wei, presumably the investors. The third was a younger American sycophant, holding Cole's coat like a servant. Liam practically sprinted to greet them, his spine bending so far forward it looked painful. "Mr. Cole, what an honor. Your table is ready. The best in the house, overlooking the park." Cole didn't even look at Liam. He just handed his coat to the sycophant without a word and kept walking. He was on his phone, barking orders. "I don't care what the regulatory board says. Crush them. Buy the debt if you have to. I want that warehouse operational by Monday." He hung up and shoved the phone into his pocket, finally acknowledging the 2 Chinese men with him. "Gentlemen," Cole said, his voice booming slightly too loud for the hushed room. "Welcome to the best food in New York. Tonight, we celebrate." They were seated in Audrey's section. She took a deep breath, smoothing her apron. "Just do the job," she told herself. "Get the tip. Pay the rent. Go home." She approached the table with a pitcher of water. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the Onyx room. My name is Audrey, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." Cole didn't look up. He was busy pouring wine for himself from a bottle that had been preset on the table, ignoring the sommelier who was hovering nearby. sparkling for them. Still for me, Cole said, waving a hand dismissively in Audrey's direction without making eye contact. And bring the appetizers immediately. We're on a schedule. Certainly, sir, Audrey said softly. As she poured the water for Mr. Zhang, the older man smiled at her kindly. Thank you, miss. You're very welcome, Audrey replied. Cole snapped his fingers. Hey, hello? Eyes on me. Audrey froze and turned to him. Yes, sir? Don't chat with the guests. Cole sneered, finally looking at her. His eyes were cold, assessing her value and finding it at 0. Just pour the water. You're here to serve, not to make friends. God, is it so hard to find competent help these days? He turned to his American assistant, laughing. See? This is why automation is the future. Robots don't try to make small talk. Audrey felt the heat rise in her cheeks. It wasn't the insult she was used to rude customers, it was the casual cruelty of it. He wanted to humiliate her to show dominance in front of his investors. She finished pouring the water in silence and retreated to the service station. Her hands were shaking. He's a nightmare, whispered Sarah, another server, as she loaded a tray. He sent back the bread because he said the crust was too aggressive. Who says that? I'll be fine, Audrey said, though she wasn't sure. She watched table 4 from a distance. Cole was dominating the conversation, using large hand gestures. The 2 Chinese investors, Mr. Zhang and Mr. Wei, looked polite but reserved. They were nodding, but their eyes weren't smiling. Audrey had a feeling this dinner was going to be a long one. She didn't know yet that it would be the most important dinner of her life. By the time the appetizers arrived, lobster thermidor bites and Wagyu beef carpaccio. Harrison Cole had consumed 3 glasses of wine, and his volume had increased significantly. He was in deal mode, which meant he was trying to bulldoze his guests into submission through sheer force of personality. Audrey approached to clear the appetizer plates. As she reached for Cole's plate, he leaned back, crossing his arms. So, Cole said, looking at Mr. Zhang, the acquisition. We sign tomorrow. My legal team has drawn up the final papers. I trust there won't be any translation issues? Mr. Zhang spoke in heavily accented English, slow and deliberate. We have some concerns, Mr. Cole, about the labor contracts. The workers in the Shenzhen plant. Cole waved his hand. Details. Boring details. Look, Zhang, you're buying into the Cole brand. We trim the fat. That's how we make money. You want efficiency. You let me handle the workers. Mr. Wei leaned in, speaking to Mr. Zhang in Mandarin. They exchanged a few rapid sentences. Audrey, who was clearing the silverware, paused imperceptibly. Her back was to them, but her ears pricked up. He is arrogant, Mr. Wei said in Mandarin. He does not respect the workers. If we sign this, we lose face with the union back home. I know, Mr. Zhang replied in Mandarin. But his technology is vital. We need the logistics software. Maybe we can control him. Audrey's heart hammered against her ribs. She kept her face neutral, stacking the plates. Cole, oblivious to what they had just said, grinned. See? I knew you'd agree. Let's get another bottle. Something expensive. The most expensive thing on the list. He snapped his fingers at Audrey again. You. Waitress. Audrey turned. Yes, Mr. Cole? Bottle of the 82 Latour. And chop chop. My friends here are thirsty. Right away, sir. As she walked away, Cole leaned in toward his American assistant, lowering his voice, but not enough. He switched languages. He began speaking in Mandarin. It was serviceable. Not fluent, but practiced. It was the kind of Mandarin learned in business seminars and crash courses, full of heavy American tones and clunky grammar, but it was understandable. He looked at Mr. Zhang and Mr. Wei, smiling that shark-like smile. Women here, Cole said in broken Mandarin, gesturing vaguely at Audrey's retreating figure. Very stupid. Low class. Not like in China. In America, serving people is for failures. He used the word shibaizhe, failures or losers. Mr. Zhang looked uncomfortable. He glanced at Audrey, then back at Cole. Mr. Cole, she is just doing her job. Cole laughed, delighted with his own linguistic skills. No. No. Watch. When Audrey returned with the wine, Cole decided to put on a show. He wanted to prove to these men that he dominated not just the business world, but the very environment he sat in. He wanted to prove he was a man of the world, capable of speaking their language and belittling the locals simultaneously. He waited until Audrey was uncorking the bottle. The cork was old and fragile. It required precision. "Hey," Cole said in Mandarin, staring right at Audrey. "You are slow, like a turtle. Do you understand?" "No, of course you don't." He turned to Mr. Wei, grinning. "See? I can say anything to her. She is a cow. She just stands there." Audrey's hand didn't waver. She pulled the cork smoothly, not a crumb of cork falling into the bottle. She placed the cork on the silver coaster. Cole wasn't done. He was enjoying the power trip. He wanted to bond with the investors over the shared superiority of wealth. "Look at her shoes," Cole continued in Mandarin, pointing openly now. "Cheap, ugly. She probably lives in a box. I bet she dropped out of school. It is sad, really. In my company, we would not hire someone like this to sweep the floors." The American assistant giggled nervously, clearly not understanding the language, but following his boss's cue. Mr. Zhang and Mr. Wei, however, were not laughing. They looked down at their plates, embarrassed for him. It was a profound breach of etiquette, a loss of face to insult a server so brazenly. But Cole mistook their silence for agreement. He thought he was winning. He looked up at Audrey, switching back to English. A smug smirk plastered on his face. "Does the wine breathe? Or do I have to teach you that too?" "It should breathe for a moment, sir," Audrey said. Her voice was steady, but inside, a fire was starting to burn. It wasn't the insults to her poverty that stung, it was the arrogance. The assumption that, because she wore an apron, she was an empty vessel. The assumption that he could speak about her, right in front of her, and she was too stupid to know. She poured a taste for him. Cole swirled it violently, took a sip, and grimaced theatrically. "It's fine. Pour." As Audrey moved around the table, pouring for the guests, Cole kept up the commentary in Mandarin. "I bet she is thinking about her boyfriend," Cole mocked in Mandarin. "Probably a truck driver. Or maybe she is alone. Yes, look at her face. No man wants a woman who smells like kitchen grease." He was pushing it. He was drunk on expensive wine and his own ego. He thought he was untouchable. Mr. Zhang finally spoke up, in English. "Mr. Cole, perhaps we discuss business now?" "Relax, Zhang." Cole laughed. "We're having fun. I'm just showing you the local culture, the divide between the lions and the sheep." Audrey finished pouring the last glass. She set the bottle down on the table with a soft clink. She stood there for a moment. She should walk away. Liam, the manager, was watching from the door, his eyes warning her to keep the customer happy. The rent was due in 3 days. Her student loans were suffocating her. One complaint from Harrison Cole could end her job at the Onyx Room, and with it, her ability to survive in the city. But there is a limit. Every person has a line in the sand, and Harrison Cole had just danced over hers. It wasn't just about her. It was about the dignity of everyone he had ever stepped on to get to the top. It was about the workers in Shenzhen he planned to exploit. Audrey looked at Harrison Cole. She looked him right in the eyes. The table went quiet, sensing the shift in her demeanor. She wasn't shrinking away. She was standing tall. She took a breath, and then she opened her mouth. The restaurant was loud, clattering silverware, laughter, the hum of conversation, but at table 4, the silence was absolute. Audrey stood with her hands clasped in front of her apron. She looked at Harrison Cole, whose smug grin was faltering slightly, confused by her sustained eye contact. He expected her to scurry away. Instead, Audrey spoke. "Mr. Cole," she began, her voice soft but carrying a crystalline clarity. She wasn't speaking English. She was speaking Mandarin, and not the clunky, tone-deaf Mandarin Cole had been butchering for the last hour. Her Mandarin was Beijing dialect perfect, the tones precise, the cadence elegant and refined. "Your tones on the third syllable are incorrect," she said calmly in Mandarin. "When you called me a failure, you actually used the word for vegetable. And while I may be a waitress, I am certainly not a bok choy." The color drained from Harrison Cole's face so fast it looked like a physical blow. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Mr. Zhang and Mr. Wei sat up straight, their eyes widening in genuine shock. The American assistant dropped his fork. It clattered loudly against the china. Audrey wasn't finished. She turned her gaze to Mr. Zhang, bowing her head slightly in a gesture of deep respect, shifting her body language from servant to equal. "Mr. Zhang, Mr. Wei," she continued in fluent Mandarin, "I apologize deeply for the disrespect you have been shown at this table tonight. It is not the custom of this establishment, nor the custom of this city, to insult guests in a language one assumes they cannot understand. It brings shame to the host." Mr. Zhang looked at her, stunned. You speak?" "I lived in Chengdu for 3 years on a Fulbright scholarship," Audrey replied, still in Mandarin. "I studied international trade and diplomacy before my father fell ill, requiring me to return to New York to pay for his medical bills. That is why I serve tables. Not because I am stupid, as Mr. Cole suggested, but because I am loyal to my family." She turned back to Cole. He was gripping the table edge, his knuckles white. The arrogance had evaporated, replaced by a panicked fury. He looked like a man who had walked into a room expecting a knife fight, only to realize he was holding a spoon while his opponent held a machine gun. "Also," Audrey added, her voice dropping an octave, becoming serious, "Mr. Cole mentioned earlier that he plans to trim the fat and ignore the labor union concerns in Shenzhen. He believes he can manipulate you into signing the deal tomorrow, then fire the workforce on Monday. He said this while looking you in the eye, believing you would be too polite to challenge him if he smiled while saying it." The atmosphere at the table shifted instantly from awkwardness to hostility. Mr. Wei's face hardened into a mask of stone. He looked at Cole with cold, piercing eyes. "You said this?" Mr. Wei asked Cole in English, his voice like ice. Cole stammered, "No, I mean she's lying. She's just a waitress. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's crazy." Audrey picked up the empty wine bottle. She didn't look angry. She looked serene. It was the calm of someone who has nothing left to lose. "The 82 Latour needs another 10 minutes to fully open up," Audrey said in perfect English, reverting to her role. "I will bring the main course shortly. Enjoy your evening, gentlemen." She turned and walked away. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break a rib, but she didn't look back. She walked straight to the service station, set the bottle down, and leaned against the counter, her legs turning to jelly. She had just nuked her job. She knew it. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. It took exactly 45 seconds for the explosion to happen. Audrey saw Liam, the manager, practically running across the dining room floor. His face was pale. Harrison Cole was standing up at table 4, pointing a finger at Audrey across the room, shouting loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "Get her out of here. Now. I want her fired. I want her banned." Every head in the Onyx room turned. The hushed atmosphere shattered. Diners lowered their forks. A celebrity at table 9 put down his wine glass to watch. Liam reached Audrey, grabbing her by the arm, hard. "What did you do?" he hissed, spit flying from his mouth. "Are you insane? That is Harrison Cole." "He was insulting me, Liam," Audrey said, pulling her arm away. "And he was lying to his investors. I just clarified things." "You clarified things?" Liam looked like he was about to have a stroke. "You're a server. You don't clarify. You pour water. You are fired. Get your things. Get out. Now. Before he sues us." "I'm not going anywhere," a voice boomed. Harrison Cole had marched over to the service station. He was red-faced, sweating, and drunk on rage. He loomed over Audrey, using his height to intimidate her. "You think you're smart?" Cole snarled, ignoring the curious onlookers. "You think because you learned a few phrases you can sabotage a $1 billion deal? I will destroy you, I will make sure you never work in this city again. I'll call every restaurant group in Manhattan. You'll be lucky to get a job scrubbing toilets at a bus station." Audrey stood her ground, though she was trembling. "Mr. Cole, you sabotaged the deal yourself when you decided to mock the people giving you money." "Shut up," Cole screamed. He raised a hand, not to hit her, but to gesture violently, and in doing so, he knocked a tray of glasses off the station. They shattered on the floor with a deafening crash. The restaurant went dead silent. "Liam," Cole yelled at the manager, "if she isn't out the back door in 10 seconds, I'm buying this building and evicting you. Do you hear me?" Liam turned on Audrey, panic in his eyes. "Audrey, go. Please, just go." Audrey untied her apron. She felt tears pricking her eyes, not from fear, but from the sheer injustice of it. This man had everything: money, power, influence. And he was using it all to crush her just because she had dared to defend her dignity. She dropped the apron on the floor next to the broken glass. "Fine. I'm leaving." "Not yet," another voice said. Mr. Zhang had walked over. He moved slowly, with the weight of authority that Cole desperately tried to fake but clearly lacked. Mr. Wei was right behind him. Mr. Zhang stepped between Cole and Audrey. He was shorter than Cole, but in that moment, he seemed 10 feet tall. "Mr. Zhang," Cole said, his voice changing instantly to a desperate, wheedling tone. "I am so sorry about this. The staff here is incompetent, disrespectful. I will handle this. We can go to another place. Le Bernardin, I can get us a table." Mr. Zhang ignored him. He turned to Audrey. "Miss Miller," Zhang said, reading the name tag she was still wearing. "You said you studied in Chengdu?" "Yes, sir," Audrey whispered. "And you understand the logistics dialect, the technical terms." "I did my thesis on supply chain efficiencies in the Sichuan province," Audrey said. Mr. Zhang nodded slowly. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. It wasn't just any card. It was thick, heavy stock with gold embossing. "Mr. Cole," Zhang said, finally turning to the billionaire. "The deal is off." Cole's eyes bugged out. "What? You can't be serious. Over a waitress?" "Zhang, look at the numbers. The projections." "The numbers are good," Mr. Zhang said calmly. "But the man is bad. A man who treats the small people with cruelty will eventually treat his partners with cruelty. You showed us your true face tonight. You thought we were deaf because we were polite. But she," he gestured to Audrey, "she heard you, and she was brave enough to tell us the truth." "This is breach of verbal contract," Cole shouted, sweat dripping down his forehead. "I'll sue." "You can try," Mr. Wei interjected, stepping forward. "But our legal team is very good, and we have a witness." He nodded at Audrey. Mr. Zhang handed the card to Audrey. "Miss Miller, my company, Zhang Global, is opening a New York office next month. We need a liaison officer, someone who speaks the language, understands the culture, and has integrity. The starting salary is $120,000 a year, plus benefits." Audrey stared at the card. It felt heavy in her hand. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Say yes," Mr. Zhang smiled. Cole let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "You're hiring her? The waitress?" "No, Mr. Zhang said, his eyes cold as he looked at Cole one last time. "I am hiring the diplomat. Come, Miss Miller, we are leaving. I believe you know a better place to get dumplings?" Audrey looked at Liam, who was staring at her with his mouth open. She looked at Cole, who was defeated, deflated, and looking very small in his expensive suit. She smiled. "Yes, Mr. Zhang. I know a place. It's not fancy, but the food is honest." "Perfect," Zhang said. Audrey stepped over the broken glass. She didn't look at Liam. She didn't look at Cole. She walked out of the Onyx room, not as a servant, but as a guest of honor. But the story didn't end there. Harrison Cole was not a man who took humiliation lightly. As Audrey walked out into the cool night air, feeling like she was floating, she didn't know that Cole was already pulling out his phone. He wasn't calling a lawyer. He was calling a tabloid. If he was going down, he was going to make sure he dragged Audrey Miller down with him. Harrison Cole did not go home to his penthouse overlooking Central Park. Instead, he sat in the back of his armored SUV, the blue light of his smartphone illuminating a face twisted by vindictive focus. He wasn't scrolling through social media. He was scrolling through his contacts, looking for a specific kind of person. A cleaner. Not the kind who scrubbed floors, but the kind who scrubbed reputations, usually by dirtying someone else's. He stopped at the name Rick Slater. Rick Slater was a journalist for the City Ledger, a tabloid that masqueraded as a serious newspaper. Rick was the kind of writer who used sources say to disguise the fact that his source was his own imagination or a paid informant. He owed Cole a favor. 2 years ago, Cole had killed a story about Rick's DUI. Now, it was time to collect. Cole dialed. It rang once. Harrison. Rick's voice was raspy, like he'd been gargling gravel. It's late. This better be good. It's better than good, Rick. It's viral, Cole said, watching the rain streak against the tinted window. I have a story about a corporate espionage attempt. A shakedown. Targeted at me. I'm listening, Rick said, the sleepiness vanishing from his tone. A waitress at the Onyx Room. Audrey Miller. She tried to extort me tonight, threatened to leak false information about the Zong acquisition unless I paid her off. When I refused, she caused a scene, got me kicked out, and somehow manipulated Zhang into leaving with her. I think she's working for a competitor. Maybe Techstar, or maybe she's just a grifter looking for a settlement. Juicy, Rick muttered. The evil billionaire angle is played out. The grifter waitress attacking an American job creator? That hits the demographic. But I need something to stick. Do you have proof? I have the manager of the restaurant. Liam, Cole lied smoothly. He'll corroborate everything. He fired her on the spot for misconduct. And I can get you her financial records. She's drowning in debt. Motive. Give me an hour, Rick said. I'll have it on the front page of the website by 6 a.m. We'll ruin her before she even wakes up. Audrey woke up not to the sun, but to the buzzing of her phone. It was vibrating so violently on her nightstand, it sounded like an angry hornet. She groggily reached for it, her mind still fuzzy with the lingering adrenaline of the previous night. She had slept poorly, tossing and turning in her small Queens apartment, replaying the moment she stood up to Cole. The memory felt surreal, like a movie scene. Had Mr. Zong really offered her a job? Had she really walked out? She looked at the screen. 47 missed calls. 112 text messages. Her stomach dropped. Who was calling her? Her dad? Was he okay? She unlocked the phone and saw a text from Sarah, the other waitress from the Onyx Room. Sarah. Audrey, oh my God. Don't look at the internet. Just stay inside. I'm so sorry. Audrey's hands began to shake. She opened her browser. She didn't have to search far. It was the top trending story on the local news feed. Headline: Serving Lies. How a disgruntled waitress tried to shake down tech mogul Harrison Cole. By Rick Slater. The photo was a blurry shot of her from a year ago, taken from her old university profile, next to a polished, heroic-looking photo of Harrison Cole. Manhattan's elite dining scene turned into a crime scene last night when a server at the Onyx Room, identified as Audrey Miller, 26, allegedly attempted to extort billionaire Harrison Cole during a high-stakes business dinner. Sources confirm Miller, who is reportedly $80,000 in debt, demanded a consulting fee to stay silent about confidential business matters she overheard. When Cole refused, witnesses say Miller became belligerent, shouting racial slurs and throwing a wine bottle. Racial slurs? Audrey whispered, her breath hitching. Throwing a bottle? It was a complete fabrication. A tapestry of lies woven so tight it looked like the truth. The article went on to quote an anonymous source inside the restaurant, clearly Liam, who described Audrey as unstable and frequently disciplined for aggression. She scrolled down to the comments. They were a sewer. User 77, typical. Probably saw a rich guy and thought she won the lottery. Lock her up. Patriot. Bill. These entitled service workers think they run the world. Cole is creating jobs. She's creating drama. Truth seeker. I found her address. Posting it in the subthread. Audrey dropped the phone as if it were burning hot. She ran to the window and peered through the blinds. Down on the street, 3 vans were already parked. Satellite trucks. Paparazzi. She was trapped. Then, the email came. It popped up on her laptop screen, which was open on the coffee table. From HR Dept. John Global. Subject. Regarding your employment offer. Dear Miss Miller, in light of recent allegations surfaced in the City Ledger regarding your conduct and potential involvement in corporate espionage, we are forced to rescind the preliminary offer of employment extended to you last night, pending a full internal review. Jean Global values integrity above all. We cannot be associated with such volatility. We wish you the best. Audrey stared at the screen. The tears didn't come. She was past tears. She felt a cold, hollow numbness spreading through her chest. Harrison Cole hadn't just fired her. He had nuked her future. He had taken the one good thing that had happened to her and turned it into a weapon. She sank onto her couch, pulling her knees to her chest. She was alone. She had no money for a lawyer. She had no PR team. She was just a waitress who spoke Mandarin, up against a man who owned the internet. It was over. For 2 days. Audrey didn't leave her apartment. She lived on instant noodles and tap water, keeping the curtains drawn. The knocking on her door was constant. Reporters, curious neighbors, maybe even process servers. She didn't answer. She watched her life dismantle itself in real time on the television. Harrison Cole gave an interview on a major financial news network. He looked solemn, almost sympathetic. It's a tragedy, really, Cole told the anchor, shaking his head. I try to help people. I tip well. But this young woman, she clearly needs help. I'm not pressing charges because I don't want to ruin her life more than she already has. I just want to focus on my work. You're a saint, Harrison, the anchor gushed. Audrey threw a pillow at the TV. Liar, she screamed, her voice cracking from disuse. You are a liar. But who could hear her? On the 3rd morning, the knocking stopped. The silence was louder than the noise. Audrey walked into her kitchen, feeling like a ghost in her own home. She looked at the stack of unpaid bills on the counter. Her father's medication was running low. She had to do something. But what? Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, she picked it up, intending to turn it off completely. But she saw the caller ID. It wasn't a blocked number. It wasn't a reporter. It was Sarah, Audrey answered, her voice a whisper. Sarah? Audrey. Listen to me. Sarah hissed. She sounded like she was hiding in a closet. I don't have much time. Liam is watching us like a hawk. He made us sign NDAs yesterday. Backdated ones. Buying our silence. It doesn't matter, Sarah. Everyone believes him. Not everyone, Sarah said. Listen, there was someone else at the restaurant that night. Table 5. The couple in the corner? The guy with the messy hair and the hoodie? Audrey racked her brain. The night was a blur. I think so. Why? That was Toby Vance. Audrey frowned. Who is Toby Vance? Are you serious? He's a streamer. A tech reviewer. He has like 10 million subscribers on YouTube. He reviews noise-canceling headphones and stuff. He was testing a new microphone setup that night. A directional mic. Audrey's heart stopped. Then restarted at double speed. A directional mic? Yes. He was recording audio for his review, to show how well the background noise cancellation worked. He was sitting right next to Cole's table. If his mic was on, he heard everything. Audrey finished, her grip on the phone tightening. I tried to message him, Sarah said, but he gets thousands of DMs a day. You need to get to him, Audrey. You need to find him. Before Cole figures it out, where is he? He's hosting a fan meetup today. At the Tech Expo in the Javits Center. It starts in 2 hours. Audrey looked at her reflection in the hallway mirror. She looked like a wreck. Dark circles, messy hair, Sweatpants. I can't go outside, Sarah. The press is camped on my stoop. Then use the fire escape, Sarah said. Audrey, this is your only shot. Run. Audrey hung up. She felt a spark ignite in her chest. It was small, but it was hot. It was anger. It was hope. She raided her closet. She put on a baseball cap, dark sunglasses, and a bulky winter coat that belonged to her dad. She packed her laptop and her documents into a backpack. She climbed out the back window, down the rusted iron fire escape, and dropped into the alleyway. She could hear the murmur of the reporters out front, oblivious. She took a deep breath of the grim alley air. It smelled like garbage and rain, but to Audrey, it smelled like freedom. She started to run. Getting into the Javits Center was easy. The crowd was massive. Getting to Toby Vance was impossible. The tech expo was a sea of neon lights, booming bass, and thousands of tech enthusiasts. Toby Vance was on the main stage, surrounded by security, doing a live Q&A about the latest graphics cards. Audrey stood in the back, crushed between two guys dressed as video game characters. She looked at the stage. Toby was young, energetic, and completely unreachable. Even if she screamed, he wouldn't hear her. She needed a different approach. She needed to be smart. She remembered her training. Diplomacy is about finding the leverage. She pulled out her phone. She didn't have his number, but she had Twitter. She created a new account. Handle, @thewaitress. She typed one tweet. At Toby Vance, I was the waitress at table 4. You were at table 5 testing the Sennheiser MK4. Check your raw audio files from Tuesday night around 8:15 p.m. You have the truth about Harrison Cole. Please. Number Audrey Miller, number, the Onyx Room. She hit send. Then she waited. 1 minute. Nothing. 5 minutes. Nothing. 10 minutes. The tweet had 0 likes. It was buried in the avalanche of fan tweets. Audrey felt the despair creeping back. It was a stupid plan. A desperate Hail Mary. Then, she saw movement on stage. Toby Vance paused. He looked at his phone, which was mounted on a tripod for his live stream. His eyes widened. He scrolled up. He tapped something. He leaned into his microphone. Guys? Can we cut the feed for a second? Tech difficulty. The giant screens behind him went black. The crowd groaned. Toby looked out into the audience, shielding his eyes against the spotlight. Is there an Audrey Miller in the house? The crowd went silent. The name was famous now. Infamous. Audrey's heart hammered. She raised her hand, then lowered it, terrified. What if this was a trap? What if he humiliated her too? If you're real, Toby said into the mic, meet me at the backstage entrance. Sector C. Alone. Audrey pushed through the crowd. Excuse me. Move. Please. She reached the security guard at Sector C. He was a mountain of a man. Name? Audrey, she squeaked. The guard tapped his earpiece. She's here. He opened the velvet rope. Audrey walked into the backstage area. It was quiet here, filled with road cases and coiled cables. Toby Vance was sitting on a crate, wearing his signature hoodie. He was holding a laptop. Next to him sat a frantic-looking PR woman. You're her, Toby said, looking up. He didn't look malicious. He looked curious. I am, Audrey said, removing her sunglasses. Did you check the audio? I'm checking it now, Toby said. I record everything in 3, 2-bit float. I can isolate a fly farting in a hurricane. He tapped a few keys. A waveform appeared on the screen. He put on his headphones. He listened. His eyes got wide, then wider. Then he frowned. He took the headphones off and looked at Audrey. A slow grin spread across his face. You speak Mandarin? Toby asked. Yes. And you called him a vegetable? Audrey couldn't help but smile. A tiny, cracked thing. He was being rude. Toby laughed. It was a genuine, boisterous laugh. Holy crap. This is gold. This is nuclear. You have it? Audrey asked, her knees weak. You have him admitting to the fraud? The insults. I have everything, Toby said. I have him calling his investors idiots. I have him admitting the Shenzhen labor violation plan. I have him telling his assistant to make something up if the wine was bad. It's all here. Crystal clear. We can't release this, the PR woman snapped. Toby, Harrison Cole is a sponsor of this channel. Cole Tech buys ad space. If you leak this, he'll sue us. He'll demonetize us. Toby looked at the PR woman. Then he looked at Audrey. He saw the cheap coat, the tired eyes, the desperation of a woman who had told the truth and been punished for it. Toby Vance didn't become the biggest tech reviewer in the world by playing it safe. He got there by being honest about bad products. Cole is a defective product, Toby said, and I'm about to do a review. He handed Audrey a spare headset. Audrey, how would you like to be on my podcast? Right now, we're going live to 400,000 people. Audrey took the headset. She thought about Liam. She thought about the reporters outside her house. She thought about Mr. Zhang. I'm ready, she said. The on-air light turned a menacing red. Toby's studio wasn't a broadcast tower. It was a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, soundproof to the point of oppression. Audrey sat across from him, wearing a pair of headphones that felt too large for her head. Her hands were folded in her lap, squeezing her knuckles white. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at the subscriber count on the monitor behind Toby. It was ticking up. 10.2 million. 10.3 million. We are living 3, 2. Toby mouthed the one and pointed a finger at the camera. What's up, tech heads? Toby's voice dropped into his professional broadcast register, smooth and authoritative. Today, we're not reviewing a graphics card. We're not reviewing a phone. We're reviewing a person. He paused for dramatic effect. The live chat on the side screen was already scrolling so fast it was a blur of neon text. You've all seen the headlines, Toby continued, his eyes locking onto the lens. The waitress versus the billionaire. The story of a greedy server trying to shake down the great Harrison Cole. A classic tale of a nobody trying to steal from a somebody. That's the story they told you. That's the story the City Ledger sold you. Toby leaned back, spinning a pen in his fingers. But here at this channel, we care about data. We care about raw input. And it just so happens that while Harrison Cole was saving the economy at the Onyx Room last Tuesday, I was sitting 10 feet away, testing the noise floor on the new Sennheiser MK 4-directional array. He gestured to Audrey. This is Audrey Miller, the woman they called a liar. Audrey, before we play the tape, I want you to tell them one thing. Why didn't you take the hush money? Liam, the manager, offered you 2 weeks severance to sign an NDA before you left. Why didn't you sign? Audrey leaned into the microphone. Her voice wavered for a split second, then steadied, finding the same steel she had found in the restaurant. Because my father raised me to believe that the truth is the only currency that doesn't depreciate, she said. Mr. Cole thinks he can buy reality. He thinks he can translate his rudeness into a joke and my dignity into a crime. I just wanted to correct the record. And correct it. You shall. Toby grinned. Producer, run the file. Timestamp 8:14 p.m. No edits, no filters. Harrison Cole was not watching YouTube. He was in a strategy meeting with his crisis management team, a group of expensive lawyers in gray suits who charged by the minute. The narrative is holding, said his chief PR officer, scanning a tablet. Sentiment is 6-0, 40 inches your favor. People hate the idea of an ungrateful employee. We just need to keep hammering the mental instability angle for Miller. Maybe leak a fake medical record? Do it, Cole snapped, pacing the length of the mahogany table. Bury her. I want her to be a cautionary tale. I want. Sir, a junior aide interrupted. His voice was trembling. He was holding his phone up, the screen glowing. You need to stop talking. Cole frowned. Excuse me? The stream? Toby Hart. I mean, the tech reviewer, he's live, with the waitress. So what? Cole scoffed. 2 nobodies crying on a podcast. Sir, they have audio. The room went dead silent. The PR officer grabbed the remote and flicked on the large wall-mounted monitor, casting the YouTube stream to the main screen. They tuned in at the exact moment the audio began to play. The sound was crisp, terrifyingly crisp. It cut through the boardroom like a razor. Cole's voice. Mandarin. Look at her shoes. Cheap, ugly. She probably lives in a box. In my company, we would not hire someone like this to sweep the floors. Cole froze. His face, usually a mask of tan confidence, went the color of old ash. Audrey's voice, English. I'll be fine, Sarah. Just do the job. Cole's voice, English. I bet she is thinking about her boyfriend. Probably a truck driver. No man wants a woman who smells like kitchen grease. Then came the moment that made the lawyers wince. Cole's voice, Mandarin. The investors. Stupid old men. They nod like bobbleheads. We trim the fat, fire the workers in Shenzhen on Monday, and they won't know until the ink is dry. Easy money. In the boardroom, the chief legal counsel slowly closed his laptop. He didn't look at Cole. He looked at the exit. That's the ball game, the lawyer whispered. It's fake, Cole screamed, lunging at the screen. It's AI. It's a deep fake. Turn it off. But he couldn't turn off the internet. Toby paused the playback right after Audrey's fluent Mandarin rebuttal, the moment she told him she wasn't a bok choy. Toby looked at the camera, his expression solemn. That wasn't a deepfake, folks. That was raw, 3-2-bit audio. The metadata confirms the time and location. Harrison Cole didn't just insult a waitress. He admitted to fraud. He admitted to misleading his investors. And he did it all because he was too arrogant to believe that a woman in an apron could be smarter than him. He turned to Audrey. Audrey, is there anything you want to say to him? He's watching. I guarantee you, he is watching. Audrey looked into the lens. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked pitying. Mr. Cole, she said softly, you have billions of dollars. You have towers with your name on them. But tonight, you are the poorest man in New York. Because you have no honor. And no amount of money can buy that back. The destruction of Harrison Cole's empire wasn't a slow burn. It was a controlled demolition. The clip of Cole calling his investors stupid bobbleheads was played on every financial news network from London to Tokyo. It wasn't just a PR crisis. It was legal suicide. Within 2 hours, the SEC announced a formal investigation into Cole Tech for securities fraud. Within 4 hours, the hashtag number Audrey was right was trending #1 globally, surpassing the Super Bowl. Within 6 hours, the board of directors of Cole Tech convened an emergency meeting via video conference. They didn't even invite Cole. They simply sent him a notification. To Harrison Cole. From the board. Subject: termination of contract. Effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties as CEO. Your access to the building has been revoked. Security will forward your personal effects. Cole sat in his office, the lights of the city glittering below him. He was alone. His phone had stopped ringing because everyone who mattered had already blocked his number. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, his hand shaking. He looked at the empty chair across from him and imagined Audrey Miller sitting there, correcting his tones. He threw the glass against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 diamonds. The storm had passed, leaving the air clean and crisp. Audrey sat on a park bench in Bryant Park, watching the pigeons fight over a bagel crust. She wore a new coat, not expensive, but warm, and bought with her own money. A GoFundMe page set up by Toby's fans had raised $50,000 for her in a single night. She had donated half of it to a charity for service workers and used the rest to pay off her father's medical bills. She was debt-free. But she was also unemployed. Mind if I sit? Audrey looked up. It was Mr. Zhang. He didn't have his entourage today. No Mr. Wei, no bodyguards. Just an older man in a cashmere coat, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. Audrey stood up quickly. Mr. Zhang, I didn't know you were still in the city. I have much work to do, Zhang said, handing her a cup. Black. 2 sugars. That is how you drink it, yes? I asked the barista at the Onyx room. Audrey took the cup, stunned. Yes. Thank you. They sat in silence for a moment. I owe you an apology, Miss Miller, Zhang said. looking at the carousel spinning in the distance. I allowed myself to be blinded by a suit. I thought Mr. Cole was a dragon, but he was merely a lizard in a costume. He fooled a lot of people, Audrey said. But not you. Zhang turned to her. You listened. You observed. And when the time came, you struck. That is not the skill of a waitress. That is the skill of a diplomat. He reached into his coat pocket. He didn't pull out a business card this time. He pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope sealed with red wax. The deal with Coltech is dead, Zhang said. We are acquiring a different partner. A clean partner. But Zhang Global still needs a face in New York. We need a director of international relations. Audrey stared at the envelope. Director? Mr. Zhang, I have a bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience carrying trays. And you have the one qualification that cannot be taught in business school, Zhang said firmly. You have a spine. You stood up to a giant, to protect the honor of strangers. That is the character I want representing my family. He placed the envelope in her hands. The contract is inside. The salary is substantial. It includes a car, an expense account for dining at restaurants, where the staff is treated well and full autonomy to build your own team. Audrey ran her thumb over the wax seal. She thought about the years of being invisible, the years of studying late at night, dreaming of a life where her mind mattered more than her ability to balance plates. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say Kai Shi. Zhang smiled. It means start. Audrey looked at him, tears pricking her eyes. She smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that felt like the sun breaking through the clouds. Kai Shi, she said, her tones perfect. Harrison Cole was last seen in a blurry paparazzi photo, boarding a commercial flight to a non-extradition country, wearing a hat pulled low over his eyes. He had lost his company, his reputation, and his billions. Audrey Miller, however, was just getting started. 6 months later, a photo of her appeared in Forbes. She wasn't wearing an apron. She was wearing a tailored navy suit, standing at the head of a boardroom table in Shanghai, flanking Mr. Zhang as they signed a historic trade agreement. The headline didn't call her a waitress. It read, The Diplomat. How Audrey Miller silenced the noise and changed the conversation. And in the background of the photo, if you looked closely, you could see a framed quote on the wall of her office. It wasn't a business mantra. It was a simple reminder. Never underestimate the person pouring the water. Audrey's journey proves that true power isn't about how loud you shout, but how clearly you speak the truth. Harrison Cole thought his wealth made him untouchable, but he forgot that character is the only currency that really matters in the end. Audrey didn't just win a job. She won her life back. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What was your favorite part of Audrey's takedown? Was it the restaurant clapback or the live stream reveal? Let me know. And if you believe in karma, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button until it turns blue, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a story of justice served cold. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.